All right, everyone, ready for another deep dive?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Because this one is huge.
Absolutely huge.
Okay, so OpenAI. OpenAI just dropped a ton of updates.
And today was a big day for OpenAI.
It feels like one of those, like, Christmas or something where they just, like, dumped a whole bunch of stuff.
It's like a fire hose of information.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to break it down for you.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's really interesting is how this stuff is going to affect us day to day.
Yeah, that's what we always try to do.
Because sometimes it can feel a little bit like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But what does it mean?
Yeah, exactly.
For the average person.
In my daily life.
Exactly. So that's what we always try to do.
And there's a lot to unpack here. One of the first things I want to talk about is this thing they're calling the real-time API.
Oh, yeah, the real-time API.
Yeah, I know that might, kind of a little jargony to some folks.
Sounds very technical, right?
Yeah. But this is actually really, really cool.
Yeah, and actually it's something that I think most people kind of understand intuitively when they actually see what it does. Because,
give us an example.
So imagine like you're trying to order a pizza.
Okay.
And instead of being able to just talk to the guy at the pizza place, you have to talk to someone.
Yeah.
Who then writes down what you said. And then they pass it to another person.
Like a game of telephone almost.
Exactly. And that person then has to like interpret it and then they pass it to someone else. And then eventually that message gets to the person making the pizza.
Right.
That's kind of how it's been building AI assistants in the past.
Interesting.
Right. Where it's just very clunky and you can't have like a real back and forth. But with this real-time API, it's basically like you're talking directly to the pizza guy.
Oh, I like that. So it's a direct line of communication.
Yeah, direct line of communication. So it's streaming audio back and forth.
Wow.
With GPT-4o.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what enables that really fast response.
Okay. So there's no lag. There's no delay.
And it just sounds more natural when you don't have that.
So what are some of the use cases for this?
Yeah.
Because it sounds pretty groundbreaking.
Yeah, so they actually highlighted a few in the article that I thought were really interesting. Yeah.
So one of them is Healthify is using it for their AI nutrition coach.
Okay.
Which I think is really cool.
So you can be like, hey, what should I make for dinner tonight?
Yeah. I've got this in my fridge. What can I throw together?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then there's Amilis. Speak, which is a language learning app.
Oh, cool.
And they're using it for like role-playing scenarios.
So it's like you can practice your Spanish with a virtual tutor.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Which I think is that's a great use case for this kind of technology.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you can actually have a conversation.
Yeah.
And practice.
Instead of just like, doing flashcards or something.
Exactly.
Wow. That's really cool. Okay. So that's real-time API.
Another thing, and this is, I don't know, this was kind of blowing my mind. Is this vision fine-tuning?
Oh, yeah.
So
that's really interesting.
Basically, they're now able to train AI to see. Like
teach AI to see.
With images.
Yeah. It's like how does that even work? It's like taking a really smart but inexperienced chef and giving them a crash course in molecular gastronomy.
Yeah.
They have all the potential in the world.
Right.
But they haven't really been exposed to all the techniques and the ingredients. And so with vision fine-tuning, we're essentially doing that for AI.
So we're giving them the ingredients.
We're giving them the visual ingredients to understand the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
So to give an example of. Great. The ride-hailing company, they're using this to make their maps smarter.
Yeah, that's a great example. Because I think it's something that everyone can relate to. Like we've all used Google Maps or Apple Maps.
Right.
And they're pretty good, but they're not perfect.
For sure.
And so what Grab did was they trained GPT-4o on, I think it was like 1,000 images of just like traffic signs and lanes and potholes.
Okay.
And now GPT-4o can identify those things in real time.
Wow.
And so it can make the maps more accurate.
So it can be like, hey, there's construction up ahead.
Yeah.
Or there's a pothole. You might want to avoid that.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's just one example they talked about. Automat, which is another company that's using it to automate business tasks, like using AI to detect like user interface elements. So you can imagine like, if you're trying to automate something on your computer, the AI can now actually see the screen.
Right. And understand what it's looking at.
Exactly. So you can say like, okay, click on the button that says submit, and it'll actually know what you're talking about.
Wow, that's wild. Okay. So we've got AI that can respond in real time. We've got AI that can see.
And understand what it's seeing, which is crazy.
This is amazing. But
yeah.
I have a feeling this is like really expensive stuff.
Right.
Like how can they even afford to do all this?
Yeah.
And how can people actually use this?
Yeah. And that's actually a really good point because, you know, AI is not cheap.
No.
Especially this kind of cutting edge AI.
Right.
But what OpenAI is doing is they're actually trying to make it more affordable. And one of the ways they're doing that is through this process called distillation.
Distillation.
Yeah. Is that a weird word?
Yeah, it sounds like we're making moonshine or something.
Yeah.
What is that?
Basically, it's like, imagine you want to learn how to bake the perfect sourdough bread.
Okay.
Instead of going and apprenticing under a master baker for like years,
right,
you get your hands on their recipe book.
Right.
That has all their tips and tricks.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Interesting.
So instead of having to use this massive, super expensive AI model, you can train a smaller model on the knowledge of that bigger model.
So it's like a condensed version.
Exactly. So it's still really good. Yeah. But it's much cheaper to run.
So it's more accessible.
Exactly.
That's all.
And then the other thing they talked about is this thing called prompt caching.
Prompt caching.
Yeah. Which is,
Yeah.
kind of like, imagine, you know, you're talking to your friend and your friend's really quick-witted and they remember all your inside jokes.
Okay.
Right? So you don't have to explain everything to them every time.
Right.
Prompt caching is kind of like that for AI, where it can remember past conversations and reuse calculations. So it makes the responses faster and cheaper.
Okay, so it's like it's learning as it goes.
Exactly.
So it's getting more efficient.
It's getting more efficient.
Okay, that's really cool. So not only are they making AI incredibly powerful, they're making it accessible.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
It's really exciting.
It's really exciting.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to unpack here, so stay tuned.
Yeah, we're just getting started.
We'll be right back after this quick break. And we are back.
Back at it.
Still unpacking all this OpenAI news.
Yeah, so much to dig into.
So much. So we talked about, you know, how they're trying to make AI more accessible.
Right, making it affordable.
Affordable.
Which is huge.
Huge. And it's not just about the price tag, right?
Right. It's about giving people the tools to actually use this technology without having to be like a coding genius.
Exactly. So they've got a couple of things here that really stood out to me. One is called stored completions.
Oh, yeah. Stored completions is a cool one.
What is that?
So basically, it's like, imagine you're working on a project.
Yeah.
And you figure out this really clever way to use AI to do something really specific. Like, I don't know, maybe you're a musician, and you figured out how to use AI to generate a certain kind of drum beat. Right. So with stored completions, you can actually save that, like a little snippet of code.
So you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time.
Exactly. It's like having a library of AI tricks
that
you can just pull from.
So it's like open source, but for AI.
Yeah, kind of. It's like sharing your AI wisdom with the world.
That's really cool. And then there's this other thing called evils.
Evils, yeah.
Which sounds very, I don't know, official.
No, it sounds very technical.
Yeah.
But it's actually pretty straightforward. It's basically a way to measure how well different AI models are performing.
Okay.
So you can compare them side by side.
Oh, interesting.
And see which one is best for your particular needs.
So it's like AI bake-off.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
You can see which one comes out on top.
So you're not just guessing like, oh, I hope this AI is good at writing poems.
Yeah.
You can actually see how it stacks up against other models.
Exactly. And I think that's really important because, you know, AI is still evolving and there are a lot of different models out there.
Right.
And they all have their strengths and weaknesses.
So it's good to have a way to compare them.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we've talked about the cool stuff, the really exciting stuff. But with all this power comes a lot of responsibility, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, this is some pretty powerful technology we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think it's something we need to be very mindful of because, you know, AI can be used for good or for bad.
Right.
It's like any tool.
Exactly.
And so it's important to have safeguards in place.
So what is OpenAI doing to make sure that this technology is used responsibly?
Well, they actually talked about that in the article.
Okay.
They have a whole team dedicated to responsible AI.
Okay.
And they're constantly monitoring how their models are being used.
Okay.
And they have strict guidelines in place to prevent misuse.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. And I think it's important for us to, you know, as users of this technology, to also be aware of the potential risks
Absolutely.
and to use it responsibly.
Yeah, we all have a part to play in this.
We do.
We can't just be like, AI, do whatever you want.
Exactly. We need to be thoughtful about how we use it.
Right. And what are the consequences?
And the implications for society as a whole.
All right. So, looking ahead, where do we go from here?
Oh, well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
But I think OpenAI has given us some pretty tantalizing clues about what the future holds.
Like what?
They keep mentioning this idea of expanding to more modalities.
More modalities.
Yeah. Which sounds kind of vague.
It does sound a little vague.
But I think it's actually really profound. Because right now, most AI models, they primarily deal with text and images.
Right.
But the world is so much more than that.
Right. We experience the world through all of our senses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think what OpenAI is hinting at is AI that can understand and interact with the world in a much richer way.
Oh, wow.
AI that can process video, audio, sensory data.
Like smell.
Maybe even smell. So it's like giving AI a whole new set of senses to experience the world with.
That is mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing. And it's really exciting to think about the possibilities.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot of ground here. But we're not done yet. We've got one more part to this deep dive.
Yeah, we're just getting warmed up.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about AI that can see images.
Right.
We've talked about AI that can respond in real time.
Yeah, like you're having a conversation with a real person.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
It is wild.
But it also feels like just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, absolutely. This is just the beginning.
Right. Like, where do we even go from here?
Well, OpenAI has dropped some hints.
Okay.
And they keep using this phrase, expanding to more modalities.
More modalities? What does that even mean?
So right now, we're mostly interacting with AI through text and images.
Right. You type something in, you show it a picture.
Exactly. But the real world, it's not just text and images.
Right. It smells, it smells, it tastes, all of our senses.
Right. So are they saying that AI is going to be able to smell a flower?
Well, maybe not smell a flower yet.
Okay.
But the idea is to give AI the ability to process and understand all those other types of information.
Like AI that can watch a movie.
Exactly. And understand the plot, the emotions.
Wow.
AI that can listen to a piece of music and tell you what instruments are being used.
Okay. So it's like giving AI a whole new way to experience the world.
Exactly.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing, and it opens up so many possibilities.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, imagine you're a musician, and you can just hum a melody into your AI assistant.
Okay.
And it can write out the sheet music for you.
Wow.
Or you're a filmmaker, and you can show your AI assistant a storyboard, and it can help you create the special effects.
Wow. That's incredible.
It's really exciting to think about.
It is. It's a little scary too, though, right?
Sure. There are always going to be concerns with any new technology.
Right. Like, what about jobs?
Right. Are robots going to take over the world?
Exactly.
Well, that's a conversation for another time.
Okay.
But I think the important thing is that we're having these conversations.
Yeah. We need to be aware of the potential downsides.
Absolutely. But we also need to be excited about the possibilities.
Right. Because this technology has the potential to change the world for the better.
In so many ways.
Exactly. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what are your final thoughts?
I think we're living in a really exciting time. AI is advancing at an incredible pace, and it's only a matter of time before it touches every aspect of our lives.
Right.
The important thing is that we stay informed, stay engaged, and help shape the future of this technology.
I completely agree. Well said.
Thank you.
And that's our show for today.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for this incredible deep dive into OpenAI's latest updates.
It was a lot to unpack.
It was a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
But hopefully you're feeling as inspired as we are.
I hope so.
Until next time, stay curious.
Yeah. Keep exploring.